Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pure Joy podcast. I'm your host, Elena Love, and welcome if you're watching on YouTube. Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to Elle Russ, and she's the author of Confident as Fuck and the best-selling book, The Paleo Thyroid Solution, which has helped thousands of people around the world reclaim their health. Elle is also a TV and film writer and the host of two podcasts, the Primal Blueprint podcast and Kick-Ass Life podcast. You can learn more about her at elleruss.com. Hi, Elle, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you on. I was just mentioning to you that I have seen you at PaleoFX. I've listened to the Primal Blueprint a lot and heard you interviewing a lot of people on there. And I know you have this new book, which I've been reviewing as well. And I really love your story. Like I love how you were able to heal your body through changing up a lot of things in your life. So I'd love to start with just hearing a little bit more about like how you healed your thyroid in your body.
Yeah. The short end of the story is I have no medical background, no scientific background. I have a degree in philosophy, and about 17 years ago, I started to have horrible thyroid symptoms. I didn't know they were at the time. In my book, I had over 30, 40 symptoms. I was a complete disaster. I went to over 2 dozen endocrinologists, famous doctors in Los Angeles, and nobody helped me. In fact, they hurt me or misdiagnosed me. And at the time, there weren't podcasts, there weren't any of this information out there. Long story short, after suffering for years, I had to take it into my own hands. And so the reason I'm a subject expert is because I fixed myself. So I would get blood work from doctors and then not listen to what they had to say. And I ordered my thyroid hormones over the internet. I had 2 bouts of hypothyroidism in 10 years. One I solved, and then the second one was a sketchier one called the reverse T3 problem. And I ended up solving. So I solved 2 bouts by myself on my own. And I shouldn't have had to do that. I live in Los Angeles, guys. So what are you doing in Missouri or Nebraska? I mean, I live in one of the best cities in the world for doctors.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure it out. So what I realized was 99% of the doctors all around the world are completely uninformed in this topic. It's the same story everywhere. My story is the story of millions. So I went about writing this book, and it's helped so many people around the world. I coach people all over the world in assessing, like, is there a problem? Are they testing you right? And then if they're testing you right, are they treating you right? And if they're testing and then treating you, are they treating you correctly with the right doses, with the right combination? Are they looking at all the underlying things? I have yet to meet many doctors that really get this. That's why I became an expert in thyroid. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I know you've written a whole book on it, and I've heard that you've helped so many people with it. And I 100% agree with you. I had a similar situation, well, over the years of like never getting told anything that was really going to help me with my health, and I had to hack my own health as well. And when I started to go into menopause at 48, I mean, I was really suffering. My breasts got huge. I was just sweating, like wetting the bed every night with sweat. And I even went to a naturopath, and she was just slow as you all get out and making these suggestions that none of them helped. And I ended up finding my own solution. One of it had to do with DIM or calcium deglucarate to help
Mhm.
detox my liver from estrogen and like these little things that they don't even know about. So I love that you've written this book. I love that you're helping people because I know the thyroid's a big issue for a lot of people. So like what are some of the symptoms people might be experiencing if they don't know that their thyroid is off? Like what would be some things?
There's so many, but I'll rattle off some of the classic ones. First of all, infertility or miscarriages, anything gynecological.
Mhm.
Were you diagnosed with endometriosis? Were you diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome? Do you have heavy periods? Do you have clots? Do you have fibroids? Any of that stuff. Hypothyroidism often manifests itself gynecologically with women. So that could be the first sign, like, oh, I'm getting my period all the time, or oh, I have horrible heavy bleeding with clots. Okay, so any of that kind of stuff. Um, and no one needs an unnecessary miscarriage. You have to check the thyroid properly and get that shit straight before you have a baby, or you are risking having a miscarriage. I've known people who've had several because they were at the wrong doctor on the wrong thyroid hormone. The doctor didn't know what they were talking about, some famous endocrinologist, and then they had 2 miscarriages. So, um, the other symptoms are you're cold all the time, and you know who you are because you're freezing and no one else is.
Yeah.
That's you. The other one is energy. You should have energy all day freaking long. If you don't, That's a problem. The other, some other symptoms would be literally inability to lose weight. What, like, no matter what you do. One of the signs is you're starting to gain weight. So you're like, oh my God, I got to work out. So you go work out. And then I would ask you, how do you feel several hours later? Do you feel more bloated and fat? Or do you feel like normal people do when they work out, where they're like, ooh, yeah, I'm tighter and firmer like later that day? Hypo people, when they work out, they don't feel tighter and firmer later that day. They feel bigger and more bloated. That's because you've just jacked your cortisol. You had no thyroid hormones. That's a longer discussion. So any kind of weight issues, hair issues, losing curliness in hair falling out is a huge one. The other one is literally just waking up with a puffy face and eyes and having like to take 2-3 hours to get your shiz together to even, get out of bed and do anything. And then there's everything from like inner itching of the ears, weird gut stuff. Every time you eat, you're bloated, you're farting. Like nothing is right. And again, there's over 30, 40 symptoms in my
Yeah.
book, but those are just a few of like the main ones. You froze up.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
So that's
Sorry, you're freezing up. Your screen's freezing.
hi.
Okay.
I said it's like, oh, I am.
You keep freezing up.
Shoot, maybe my internet connection. No,
Okay, there you are.
dang it. Okay, that's weird. My internet looks fine, but who knows
Now
why.
you're fine. Now I can
I
hear
was
you.
gonna say it sounds like most women I know need to get that book. I just want to use one example. My hairdresser, who's always been super overweight and has had it, she says everything she's tried doesn't work. And she does tell me that at the end of the day of not eating anything, she's really bloated and like larger than the beginning of the day, even without eating. And I'm like, I wonder why that's happening. So I'm definitely going to tell her to
It's
read your
because it's hypothyroidism. That's
yes.
why. Listen, let me just say everything to your audience, okay? Which is this: 1 in 8 women are going to get this in their lifetime. It's disproportionately a women's issue. Men get it too. They're often overlooked because of it. 200 million people in the world have this. 25 plus million Americans have it. 60% are undiagnosed, so that number is bigger. And here's the kicker. The number one prescription in the USA, if you look it up, is just one brand for one type of thyroid hormone. That tells you everything you know. It is an epidemic to some degree. It's ridiculous. And so, and here's the thing: doctors test it wrong. So you're going to go to the doctor, like, it's not your thyroid, just work out and eat more, eat less. This is my biggest message. Aside from get my book, look at my free thyroid guide. If you think you have a thyroid problem and you go to a doctor and then you're like, well, they said it was fine. Bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Bullshit. I get every time someone says that to me, it's never true. I've never had, in all my years of coaching, I've never had anyone go, oh, my doctor said my thyroid's fine. I go, great, let me see the results. It's not fine. So here's the thing: do not give your entire health to some Harvard MD thinking they know maybe more than you or even me. The best-selling thyroid books are written by patients for a reason. I'm going to mention the other two because these two other authors also helped me save my own life. These are the only other two books I recommend on thyroid. One is called Stop the Thyroid Madness by Janie Bowthorpe, and she has a website called stopthethyroidmadness.com, and it is the best website and resource for thyroid health, okay? Secondly is Paul Robinson. He wrote a book called Recovering with T3 and also the Patient's Thyroid Dosing Manual, a couple other books. That guy is amazing. He helped save my life on my second issue with a thyroid problem. So I would look up those two people. There's only two other authors that I trust with thyroid. I've seen it. Look, I just read a book the other day that came out by a doctor on thyroid, and I read it and I threw it right in the garbage. I was so angry. It was the worst. And again, this is just how it is. I've been on panels next to doctors where they say something really stupid about thyroid that's just not true. So you got to go learn this yourself. Just because your doctor said, it's not your thyroid. My doctor also said that for 2 years. Okay. Had they caught it right then and there, had someone been testing it properly, I wouldn't have maybe developed a polyp in my uterus that had to be surgically removed. I wouldn't have had a fibroid. I wouldn't have had all this bleeding and all these issues and suffering if someone had just tested it correctly from the beginning.
Hearing this, it makes my heart break because I coach a lot of women, I talk to a lot of women, and I know that a lot of them have thyroid issues. And I think the one thing, and I've even thought this too, because I went in and like got my thyroid tested and everything and asked, make sure you're testing the free T3 and the free T4 and all this stuff. It feels like it's overwhelming to us. So I'm guessing that in your book, you're kind of just spelling it all out so that
it's all spelled out. In fact, if you just Google my name plus thyroid, you'll find, hundreds of interviews. And on each of those interviews, you'll be able to get it and learn it. You don't even have to read it. It's the problem with hypothyroid people. It affects your brain. Okay. It really affects your brain. We have
Yep.
more receptors for the biologically active thyroid hormone in our brain than anywhere else. So you start to get symptoms like you can't think, you have brain fog, you can't remember numbers, you read a paragraph, you can't retain it. It's like you have messy handwriting, you're tripping over stuff. It affects brain to hand dexterity and coordination. It affects everything. So oftentimes reading is tough. And I say in my book, if you need a partner or a friend to help you read this, to help you synthesize the information, then great. Sometimes watching a ton of videos of me talking about this in detailed ways is a great way to learn. It's actually how I really learned about paleo primal health from my publisher and boss, Mark Sisson, who, when it wasn't really his book that did it for me. It was seeing him do a seminar talking about it that really did it for me. So whatever way you need to synthesize that information, but yes, my book is written for people to really understand it. I also have Dr. Gary Forsman of middlepathmedicine.com on there. He's my doctor. He's one of the only doctors that gets this. And there's a really valuable Q&A in the back of the book with him corroborating and talking about all the things in the book. So it's very clear what you need to get tested and how you need to look at that.
That is so awesome. And I'll make sure I put all these links that you're talking about in the show
Sure.
notes so if people want to look it up, they don't have to rewind.
Mhm.
But I want to ask you, what do you think? I mean, I think I know the answer, but what do you think? Why is there such an epidemic of thyroid problems? Like, why are so many people experiencing these symptoms?
Terrible adaptation to the modern world. Okay, so let's talk about that. So back in the 80s, there was that low fat craze where it was like eat a bunch of carbs. That screwed us
I
all
was
up.
a volunteer for that. Yep.
Me too. That screwed us all up. Okay. Then we've got a toxic, our world is more toxic than it used to be. Also, our soil is really depleted in selenium. Selenium is incredible. It's a very important nutrient for the conversion of thyroid hormones. And again, I think lifestyle. So back in the day, no one was doing CrossFit 5 days a week. And I don't recommend that ever unless you're an athlete and you're eating appropriately for that and you're doing all the right things. So it's this like, let me go to the gym and run for an hour. And then I'm going to run here and I'm going to multitask and I've got the driving the kids. Let me tell you something. I am, obviously, as you can see, I'm a fast talker. I am the fastest multitasker. But knowing what I know, I have kind of stopped that and try to do things one at a time, because even when you're doing that multitasking stuff, even if it's fun, look at your heart rate.
Yeah.
It
Stuff.
jacks it right up. It's stress, it's fight or flight.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is about mental, and that's what paleo primal health is about. It's not just a dietary paradigm, it is a lifestyle. So, there's several components to that. So you do have to change your lifestyle. I mean, that's part of it. Of course, we know to get good sleep and sun and blah, 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 but people are overworking out, they're undersleeping, and they're trying to get a million things done, and it really is just, it disables you in so many ways. And it really is going to bring you down unless you're nutritionally and like supplementally supporting this whole system. So, that's why we're a more fast-paced world. Yeah, like people aren't going for long walks after dinner. I mean, maybe not during the pandemic, but and our immediate ancestors, our the grandparents and whatever, they were eating what was in season. No one had boxed crap. There were no glyphosate roundup it just wasn't as toxic of a world. The meat and everything also was better too. There was regenerative agriculture, which thank God is now making a comeback. But then it went over to these cow feedlots and they're injecting animals with antibiotics and they're feeding them their non-native diet of grains. And so as we go down the road, we've gotten sicker and sicker and sicker. Okay. I mean, I would say we've started to get sick 10,000 years ago, which is true when the advent of the agricultural revolution, but it's been really bad. Why do you think everyone's riddled with type 2 diabetes? Has anyone watched TV lately? Every commercial is for a glucose monitoring medication and for an autoimmune disease. And I just want to make this real clear. So we've been evolving as humans for 2.5 million years. Okay. Our genetics have really not changed. Okay. So 10,000 years ago, we started to go, this walking around stuff's really brutal. Let's just kind of like pack it up here. And, we started farming animals and farming. And here's the truth. Rheumatoid arthritis was never seen on the archaeological record until 10,000 years ago. What does that mean? That means paleontologists who can, sample tons of species, right? They look at a sample of some skeleton from 50,000 years ago and then go, oh, it's a cow or, whatever. And they never, ever saw rheumatoid arthritis show up until 10,000 years ago. That says everything you need to know. Why
Great.
is that? Because grains ignite autoimmune antibodies. Okay.
Totally.
So again, like it's all right there. We know this stuff. But our government food pyramid in the US is a diabetes making food pyramid. It
Yeah.
suggests 6 to 11 servings of grains a day and 2 to 4 servings of fruit. I will get diabetes if I followed that every day for the next couple of months. There is no question about it. My HbA1c would rise and I would be absolutely pre-diabetic.
Yep.
It's
And not just
horrific.
only that.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
So that's why it's such a problem. We're living in a toxic world. We're too busy. We got too much stuff going on. And we're not taking the time to enjoy life and have play and all of the principles of the primal blueprint and primal ancestral living, which is really, really important. Sunlight, fresh air, it's kind of like getting back to basics. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. And I feel like that's why all these, keto, primal, paleo, Mark Sisson's books, Primal Blueprint, all this has become so popular because people are looking for solutions and they know that the doctors don't have them, or at least some of us. I think we still have a long way to go for the entire mainstream
Right.
population. But I think like people like you just taking back their health and being an example, like that's the only thing we really can do is just show people that there's another way. And I just think it's so important to get this information out there and to keep talking about it and to keep saying to people, if one thing, like I love what you said, like if one thing's not working, if you went to one doctor and he told you were fine, like don't stop there. Like keep trying things, keep trying new things, keep experimenting and finding out what's working. But it sounds like you've got already the formula laid out, which I love, because then people don't
And
have
you
to
know
go
what? Here's the
second
thing.
guess.
This is all fixable. I don't want, and this is what kills me. This is really a true story. Oprah. We've all seen Oprah struggle with her weight for years. All of us. The whole world has watched this. Okay. So Weight Watchers, this, that, and that. Does it ever get any better? No, not really. She has Hashimoto's. One time I heard her say in an interview, well, I have Hashimoto's and my doctor said I was always going to struggle with weight because of Hashimoto's. Holy shizballs, guys. Let me tell you something. That's an idiot, uninformed doctor. And you would go, but Oprah has billions of dollars. Yeah, guess what? I know a ton of billionaires in LA. They go spend all these money on fancy doctors, fancy endocrinologists. They're just as uninformed. Just because you have money doesn't mean you're getting the best care. I went to a Harvard trained doctor who was clueless. Okay. So again, we have to get this out of our head that just because someone has a medical degree, they know what they're talking about. It's not to say you should discount everything, but oh my God, I've run into too many doctors that are absolutely clueless. This is the story of my life every day, coaching people all over the world. It's the same exact story. My doctor said we don't need that test, that's stupid, or my doctor says this, and all of these things, right? So it's just it's just such a shame. It's just such
Well,
a shame the way it's gone. But listen, it just means, and I want to say this, everybody that I know, and usually they're people that come to me because they've persevered, they haven't given up, and they're like, no, I'm going to keep searching for the answers. Those people win. You
yes,
will win. So perseverance pays, damn
don't
it.
give
It
up.
does. I didn't give up. I was like, and I had people yelling at me and my family going, you're going to have to listen to one of these doctors. Thank God I didn't. I'd be dead now. So, I just was like, no, I don't. And I kept going. Now I'm sorry. And I'm sad for myself that I had to do it all on my own. And, that was lonely and scary.
Yep,
But I did that also that you don't have to. Right. And but
exactly.
given that there still are people around the world that do have to do that because they don't have a doctor to prescribe them thyroid hormones and they can't find one. And then they are also on their own. So I want to say this is fixable. If you have a doctor, like let's say you go to a doctor and like, I'm depressed. They're like, oh, well, you have hypothyroidism. So that's one of the symptoms. No, it's symptom elimination. When you are properly treated on thyroid hormone replacement, you don't have any hypo symptoms. I take thyroid hormone every day to be like you or normal people who don't have to take thyroid hormone. Okay. You should have zero hypothyroid symptoms. If your doctor is telling you that, you don't have depression once you're treated because you have the right amount of T3s and you're good to go. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
again, a doctor who says that is a doctor who doesn't know how to treat the problem. It's totally fixable and treatable, from Hashimoto's to Graves to all of this stuff. So please don't lose hope and just know this is fixable. I've seen the worst cases you can imagine, just completely 180. And, that's including people who have reversed rheumatoid arthritis, muscular sclerosis, all sorts of things through just a paleo diet and some functional vitamin supplement, through a functional doctor. So if you really want the best doctor, try to research paleo doctors or functional medicine MDs, anti-aging doctors, they're not all worth their weight. You could go to my doctor's website, middlepathmedicine.com, look at his about section, look at his training. You can try to see if someone mimics that somewhere where you live. But these are going to be the smarter, better doctors. They're not all worth their weight. I can't guarantee every functional medicine doctor is going to be awesome, but they would be the only ones I would consider going to be honest with you.
Yeah, this is all so awesome. And I mean, I just want to go back to the medical association. We kind of all know that they're pretty much bought and paid for by big
100%.
pharma. So at this point,
So
I
is
mean,
the government food pyramid. I mean, anyone's curious about that, go
yeah,
read Death by Food Pyramid, where it talks about all the shoddy science. Look, we've got grain lobbyists and things like that. Why do you think the food pyramid says to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains a day? That's not because anybody believes that that's healthy. So again, there's just too much politics and things like that involved in this. And as well, when you go to a doctor's office, you're really looking at standard doctor, PPO, spending 15 minutes with you. You're looking for a prescription or surgery. That's all they're going to really deal with you. They're going to laugh at you when you ask them about B12. They're going to laugh in your face when you ask them about nutrition. They don't know. They
they
don't
don't, they're
know.
not taught. Yep.
Not
And they
trained
get
to
in
do
trouble.
that. So you need to go to
Actually,
the
yeah.
doctors that have gone above and beyond their initial training 40 years ago and are continually learning, geeking out, spending time with you, and really, really looking at you as a whole person, the entire functional system of the body. One thing affects another. Perfect example. Someone will be like a client who was like 25 years old and he had really low testosterone. The doctor, their answer is, what fixed low testosterone? Let's give this kid testosterone.
I know.
That's a patch. That's a band-aid to a symptom. They didn't go, hold on a minute, this kid's 25. He should have
Why
like,
aren't you producing it?
yeah,
Yeah.
he should have raging amounts of testosterone. We got to figure out what's causing this. And it was real simple. He had a thyroid problem. The thyroid is your precursor to the production and regulation of all of your sex hormones. He didn't need testosterone. Same goes for women, by the way. If you have a hormonal balance, you go, I have a hormonal balance. Why? Check the thyroid first. It's got to be completely ruled out before you start giving people estrogen and progesterone. And this happened to me back in the day. And I was 30 and they were like, oh, you need this hormone. No, I just needed to correct the thyroid. Oh, I have terrible lipid panels. I have to go on a statin. No, it's probably your thyroid. Check your thyroid. Oh, I have insulin resistance and high blood pressure. And yeah, that's completely thyroid related. This is the master gland for a reason.
Yeah.
From it, all problems usually arise or disappear. It's a big one.
So I want to ask you a couple more questions about thyroid, and then we'll move on. But I want to just ask, like, if someone's listening to this and they're like, "Well, I think I have a thyroid problem." What would you say, like, is the first thing to do? Because I know people say, "Oh, should I take seaweed? Should I avoid seaweed? Should I do this? Should I do that?" Like, I guess I probably already know the answer. Like, read your book. Like, but like, if just someone's like, "I'm afraid that this is happening to me," where do they start?
100% you go towards a paleo paradigm. That's for starters. People have fixed a thyroid problem in 8 weeks by just cutting out foods, by just getting primal. So dumb, so easy. Okay, so you do that. In the meantime, selenium is a very important nutrient for this. So you could always be like, oh, I'll get a bottle of selenium, 200 micrograms. If you do, Life Extension brand is the best. I don't have any affiliation with them. They have the right form of selenium, which is S-methyl-L-selenocysteine. It's a mouthful. Long story short, that's the best one. So you can take 200, 400 micrograms a day for a couple of months while you're doing paleo to go, okay,
Just
you can
like
take
give yourself a boost.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could take a thyroid support formula. Gaia Herbs makes a good one. Where you take 2 pills in the morning. One has a little bit of like ashwagandha, a little bit of like seaweed, a little bit, tyrosine, some other things that support the thyroid. What you don't do though is you go online as a thyroid sufferer and you see that iodine's related, and you go out and you get Lugel's iodine, Crow's iodine, and you're taking all of iodine. It can F you up. It can cause detox symptoms. Not the way to go. You don't need to supplement with huge amounts of iodine unless you really know you have an issue. And if you don't, go with like you could try something like iThroid, which is like the lowest is 6.25 milligrams, and you could, or micrograms, I'm not sure. And you could take that like a couple days a week. If you weren't sure if you had an iodine issue, you didn't have money to get tested, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you could just do that. It probably wouldn't hurt, might help. Who knows? You want to optimize vitamin D. You want to optimize B12. So obviously, a good multivitamin, adding in some extra nutrients. And again, going on a paleo primal path to deflame yourself and detoxify to some degree. You could also take a milk thistle with dandelion type of combination, which is like a liver tonic, and that would be, because things are processed in the liver, you could have a stagnant liver. So these are all sort of innocuous supplements, and of course, talk to your doctor. I'm not an MD, but these are the things that you can do to sort of be like, all right, and it doesn't mean taking 40 pills a day of something. So you would try that for 8 weeks, get retested. Did any of the numbers move and I'm on the right track, or uh-oh. But here's the thing. You can do that first, okay, to see if it'll change. And if it doesn't, then at least you have done your best to prime your body for the receival and metabolism of thyroid hormones that you may have to take.
Okay, that's right. That's great. A couple of questions with that is a lot of people talk about taking Brazil nuts for
Nope.
selenium. Do you think?
Nope. Nope. I'll tell you why. So, okay. So here's the thing. This is a big one. First of all, it's very hard to keep Brazil nuts fresh.
I know they go
Okay.
rancid.
They go rancid quickly. So, I mean, unless you're getting raw Brazil nuts and they're expensive. Okay. So people are like, oh, just do 2 Brazil nuts a day. And here's the thing. This is why it doesn't work. When you're hypothyroid, you have compromised digestion. Okay. So when you start eating food, you produce less hydrochloric acid, doesn't break down the stuff. You have gut issues, that's why you get low in iron, low in vitamin D, low in all of these things. Your body kind of can't hold on to them when you're hypo. Okay. Not me. I'm not hypo anymore. Technically, I am. Like, I'd have to put it down on a doctor sheet, but I'm not hypo anymore. So I don't have to worry about like taking iron and all that stuff. So once you get to a point where you're on hypo, then you won't really need to take these things. But these things need to be, optimized initially in this game. Sorry, I lost my train of thought that I was going
Yeah,
to go.
just talking about Brazil nuts and that
Oh,
the
Brazil nuts.
thing
So
is
here's the
still
thing.
getting better.
You,
So,
you got to take the straight shot. And when I mentioned the life extension selenium, the SE methyl L-selenocysteine form, because it is the most absorbable form and it is really the best way to go. Look, let me tell you something. Because of the 2 bouts of hypothyroidism, I had iron issues a couple of times, terrible iron issues.
yeah.
Um, I remember trying to eat, I was craving chicken liver. I was like, it doesn't matter how much raw freaking meat you eat, it doesn't do the job. It doesn't do the damn job. You have to get the supplement sometimes. And I have this conversation with everyone all the time. They're like, well, I got the natural floradix iron from Germany. Waste of time, waste of money. You really need to go for the real deal stuff, the chelated iron bisglycinate chelate. And sometimes it has to be in high amounts. Depends on where your ferritin, your iron storage, and your other levels are. No amount of red meat. And again, you're not it's a different level of
Not going
receiving
in.
those things.
Yeah.
Once you get better, maybe, but I still would every once in a while with a selenium pill. You can still have Brazil nuts, but you know.
But you're making sure that you're getting it. So you're saying with iron, you can get tested for that. I know I was low in iron when I got tested back when I went into
Let me
menopause.
just throw this out. So ferritin is iron storage, and that is really important. But you get the panel, which is TIBC, total iron, percentage saturation, and ferritin. Ferritin, usually, there are some labs that are different ranges, but in the US, one of the standard ranges is 10 to 150. If that's your range, you need to be 65 or 70. If
Okay.
you are 40 or below, you are edging towards problems and might need a bump. Some people are at the very bottom of the range. Now, this is something that's very interesting. When I went back to my labs with the first dumb doctor many, many years ago, my ferritin didn't show up as an H or an L, right? On the test. So it was like 10 to 150. It was at 30, and the doctor didn't think that was a problem. That is a drastic problem that
Yeah.
needs to get fixed immediately, because iron storage is important for a million things, but it is really important for the thyroid hormones that you're swallowing or that your body is producing naturally to get to where they need to go.
Awesome. Okay. Can you say the name of the supplement again so I can link it?
Which supplement?
Iron supplement.
Okay, so the best iron supplement, and again, don't take it unless you have to.
Yeah.
The best iron supplement is Bluebonnet brand,
Okay.
and it's called chelated iron, and they have it in 2 strains, like 18 milligrams and 27 milligrams. It's a very clean brand, and it's the right form, which is iron bisglycinate chelate or ferrous bisglycinate chelate. Whole Foods also has their own version. It's like 15 and 25 versus 18 and 27. But you want that form of iron. It's the most absorbable. It does not cause constipation. It doesn't have any problems. Those are all wives' tales about different forms of iron that we don't really use anymore in the thyroid world. We really stick with the chelated iron. Yeah.
And one more iron question is the whole age-old cast iron skillet. Yay or nay?
It depends. It depends on where your iron is at. If it like just needs a little bit of a bump, then I'd cook out of an iron skillet for like 2 weeks straight, maybe get retested, see if it did anything. But often it does not also do the job.
Okay.
If you're really severely hating it, yeah.
So much. I know you're so like you're such a book of knowledge from all these things that you've been through and all the experience. And I know that reading your book is going to help people a lot, like to dig even deeper. And you have a new book coming out, and it's
It's
called,
already out.
it's already out. Okay. I didn't know if it was out yet. Okay. So it's already out, Confident as Fuck. And I love, reading through it. I just love what you're talking about in there. And so what kind of was the impetus for writing this book?
So people listening or watching, or even you might experience that throughout your life, you attract certain types of people that may have things that you need and you have things they need, right? So I noticed that throughout my entire life, people would call me for things like, I need a good comeback for that bully, or how do I ask for a raise, or I need to stand up to so and so. There were always something having to do with speaking up, declaring your worth, declaring a boundary. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anytime anyone had a tough time being like, I know this is wrong, but I can't seem to like draw the line. And I was like, okay, but here's the thing. I learned a lot from them. People who, let's say, were less confident in speaking up, are better receivers. They're usually more vulnerable. They're better at receiving compliments and taking help, whereas highly confident people are. So highly confident people do have pitfalls that need to be refined along the way. For example, a lot of super ultra confident kids are often like can be kind of bullies like I was. It's like a misuse of confidence. It's a very primal misuse of confidence in a way. And so you have to refine that over the years because confident people do not want to show vulnerability. They don't want to accept help and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I would say highly confident. It's more like, super alpha confident, alphas in general, just don't like that. So I had a lot to learn from them. They were also, even though they had trouble speaking up when they did, they were more diplomatic. I think we could all learn from that. I know that's my problem because confident people are assured of themselves. So they're just like, so we need to be more careful on the send, right? Be really like sleep on it before you send an email, you know? so,
One word of advice you could give someone is don't send the email until you've checked with someone else and or slept on it.
ooh, and then you wake up the next day and you realize I didn't even need to send anything at all. Damn it. Why
Yeah.
did I even?
Yeah.
So that's like more of a, pitfall of a highly confident person who needs some refinement versus someone who is less inclined to speak up. So that's kind of, and it's just been the story of my life and it still is. It always was throughout these years. Even people at our company would call me when they needed to like ask Mark Sisson for a raise or something.
Right.
Because like I
You
said,
were
I was
like the
scared.
fix all, the go to. But I know how that can become exhausting too, and you did mention that in the book. What I want to say before I ask you about non-versations is
Yeah.
sometimes that confident people can be intimidating to, like
Yes.
what you said, to people that don't speak up. And we all have so much to learn from each other. And if we were all the same and everybody was walking around alpha, I mean, this world wouldn't work. So there's finding that
No.
whole balance and everything.
Well, also too, you listen. I'm an extroverted person, and I obviously am. And well, I'm actually like kind of a homebody, so I'm not a complete extrovert. I don't get. I actually am probably 60% homebody, where I don't get fueled by other people. I love other people, but I'm obviously seem like a big extrovert. I can talk in front of 50,000, whatever. Here's the thing: some of the most confident people are the quietest people in the room. This book and this thing is not about you becoming a different personality. It's about you feeling completely comfortable inside and out wherever you are. One of my best friends is such a guy. He's kind of quiet. You'd have to really get to know him. You might be like, oh, he's really shy and quiet. No, he's at the party alone in the corner, just observing, feeling comfortable himself, doesn't care.
Yep.
Or
That's what
someone might look over and go, oh, that poor guy. No, not that poor guy. He's just freaking fine, dude. And I want everyone to walk through life like that. So I say in the book that I walk in every place like I own the motherfucker. And here's the thing. That's not a cocky thing. What I mean by that is I walk into every room like I don't care about you knowing who I am or my accomplishment. I'm not trying to prove or be like, ooh, I can't. None of it. In fact, I don't even care if I talk to anybody. I might just sit in the corner and stare and observe. Whatever it is, I'm comfortable in myself, in my body, wherever I go alone. I want everyone to walk into any place like that. I know so many people who walk into a store, walk into a restaurant or a party, and they just feel like everyone's looking at me and they feel so self-conscious. And I get that. That's my goal. I want everyone to feel that way. So this is not about being loud or being out, extroverted or being, again, the loudest people in the room are sometimes the most insecure.
Right. They're trying to get the attention because they,
And,
yeah.
and and confident people don't give a shit about that. That's how you know they're not confident. They're insecure, and that's why when someone's name dropping and bragging, we all are like, ugh, 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 because it feels wrong, because it's gross, because it's totally
Yeah,
insecure.
it's a turn off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love that because I feel like, well, and this I think really ties into it. You talked about paleo food and keto food and just like cleaning up your diet. And don't you agree that, like, this happened to me when I changed my diet, my confidence came online. And like, I didn't think I could ever be a teacher or a public speaker. And all these things just started to happen. And I think a lot of this is tied to, like, if you're eating sugar and you're eating a ton of grains and you're just eating unhealthy food, like, how are you going to be confident? It feels like it goes together. Like, the condition of your body really reflects your personality.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best ways to get more confident is to fix the health part of it first, but you can kind of do both at the same time and one or the other. There are a lot. Here's the thing. Uh, you- I bet if you really got down to it with super obese people that are seemingly confident, they probably have a lot of, are they really confident on the inside, right? The ones I've talked to, they're not. They're not. They have
Mask.
the self-esteem issues on the inside, even though they're out there wearing the tube top, being like, "Hey, I'm proud and whatever." But that's not necessarily the case. It also a poor diet and what you're talking about screws with your dopamine, your neurotransmitters, your thyroid, everything. These are all related to how you operate in the world, your wherewithal for conflict. If you're hypoglycemic because you're on a sugar burning standard garbage diet, then you're going to have that drop hour 3 after you've eaten, and now you're hangry, and now you're going to snap at someone. Like,
And then you feel bad about yourself because you were just a jerk. And then it's a vicious
got
cycle.
to get steady up here, and that is through a paleo primal diet. It may require some supplements and other things, but I would absolutely start there. Yeah.
Yes. And also, I agree with your point of acting as if, like, if I start to act confident and like follow these things that Elle's talking about, like, get myself a step in the right direction, and then like,
And
oh
yeah,
wow,
and act as if it's tough, because sometimes it's because it has to be more than that. It has to be the inner work. You just can't do the outer, but the outer at some point will have to happen. No one ever likes to speak up to the first time. It's uncomfortable. It's a conflict situation depending on what the topic is. And so, yes, it's going to be yucky the first time, but you do it once, and I'm telling you, then you're like, oh my God, because the other feels horrible. Look, at
yeah,
how many people out there right now can think of times when they're like, man, if I could go back in time, I wish I would have said that. I don't have any of
right.
those regrets, guys. I have zero because I've said it. I say it. I don't have any of those regrets. I also don't have any passive aggressive bullshit issues with my friends because they're pretty much confident as fuck. And you know what? We don't have bullshit with each other. So if someone says something that's off, I'll be like, hey man, that was kind of a dick move. And it's over in 1 minute.
I love that.
I'm like, I don't not say anything. And then it festers. Now I'm building up. Now there's covert contracts, passive aggressive behavior. Now 2 years from now, I'm like, well, remember that one time 2 years ago? Oh my God, guys, get rid of all that shit. I don't have any of it with my friends. And it is about, so having confident as fuck friends is important. That's the kind of, let's talk about ancestral paleo primal with related to confidence. Okay. And this is all really stemming from Mark Sisson's book, Primal Connection, in a lot of ways. Having confidence provides an evolutionary edge, period. Okay, it does. Confidence helps you navigate new challenges, tasks, social situations without anxiety, without fear. Okay, and also propelling you in the direction of accomplishing your goals and your dreams. So nowadays, not back in our hunter-gatherer, ancestor days, but nowadays, like we have the luxury of walling in despair, self-pity, judgment, doubt. Not so back then, man. Life was unrelenting,
Time.
harsh. It was constantly throwing challenges at our hunter
Yep.
gatherer. Can you imagine our hunter gatherer ancestors moping around with their heads hung low, judging
Yelled
themselves
at me.
failures? No, you know why?
Yeah.
Because here's are they or being bummed out when they found a water source that was tainted or whatever. No, because they might have been disappointed, but to the hunter gatherer, a victim mindset was a recipe for death, guys. Okay, and in this life, it's a recipe for just a shitty, unhappy, unsuccessful life. Everybody needs more confidence. Everyone needs confidence. So if you don't have it, you need to get it. If you have it, you probably need to refine it because you won't get anything you want from the bedroom to the boardroom. It's just how it goes. So survival required back in the day that our ancestors regroup, forge ahead to the next challenge when they faced unfavorable circumstances. They did it with a purpose, but had their outcome not been to their advantage, they accepted it and moved on, tried later, did an alternate plan. How many people just are swimming and still upset and bitter at their ex-husband after
Right. The
divorce
past.
from
They're always
7 years ago? the
Yep.
7 years ago, and they're still, well, or I hear this, well, the way I was raised, oh my God, you're 50. Stop blaming your parents.
Talking about your parents.
And that's what I talk about. Like, your victim application has been denied. So it may sound kind of harsh, but like, this is how you have to go, guys. You have to get into this material. And my book really goes through scraping the barnacles off your life, from parental garbage to dealing with downers, being a downer about other people's confidence, shame, disabling confidence, lots of things, all through story, real life examples where you're going to read it and go, ah, shit,
I
that's
can relate to that. Yep.
yeah, yep. I had a couple friends who were like, "Well, I'm already confident. Do I need it?" I'm like, "Probably." And then they read it and they were like,
Always
"Yeah,
something
yep.
there.
You called me on a couple of things in there." Okay. And I call myself on stuff in the book too. I mean, listen, we're not all immune to these
Nobody's immune.
moments. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I liked what you like the beginning of the book. You talked about non-versations and tough love, and I have actually had an experience like what you talked about, where you're talking to this guy for 4 years and he's still stuck in the same story, and then at one point you're just like, enough, like
This
find
is
some.
the way I look at it. Like this, and my friends kind of know that I'm like this. But let's say you keep coming to me with the same problem. Oh, well, it was I had a friend who came to me every year about I'm gonna quit drinking and lose weight, and this is my plan, and blah blah. And after like the third time or the third or fourth year, I finally said, "Hey, you guess what? You can talk to anyone fucking else about this, but you are no longer talking to me about it until you decide to actually do something about it. I don't want to hear it.
Yep.
I'm done. I'm cutting you off." And because I don't have time for non-versations. Non-versations are conversations that go nowhere. You know what else those conversations are? Someone writes a post and you're like, "That's not true, da da da." Good luck. You know what? F you. And let me tell you why. It's such a false thing. Like, basically, people who are doing this stuff online, it's not really a true spirit of debate.
Mm-mm.
You're not changing your
Yeah.
damn position, and they're not either. So all you're doing is there to berate them for being stupid for not having your position. You're just
Yep.
kind of an asshole. You're an instigator and you're a poker. Stop it. Okay.
Yep.
And so it goes nowhere. And this, by the way, I was hanging out with my mom's a couple of years ago in Delaware, and all of her like 75-year-old friends were talking about all these fights over politics. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? You guys are just
Time.
yeah. So believe me, I've started conversations before. I have totally started them before, like with people with opposite political views. But the truth that I realized about it is I wasn't really interested in a true spirited philosophical debate on the topic. I just wanted to be like, you're freaking wrong. You're wrong and you're stupid for thinking this way. Let's be honest. That's kind of what it. So stop doing it. Stop having them, stop instigating them, stop engaging in them. So they range from things like the friend calls you 5 times, and I have a friend who had some marriage issues over the year of many, many years. And I said to them at some point, I go, there's going to be a time where I'm not going to, at what point am I going to continue to keep hearing the same
Same
story
story.
over 20 years until
Yes.
you do something about it? At some point, I love you. You're my friend and I'm here for you no matter what. But like, I'm kind of going to want to give you the middle finger at some point and go, you can't talk to me about this anymore.
I
You know?
get it.
And it's
Yep.
funny because I did that with a friend and then they call me and they go, I know you. And I go, no, no, of course I'm here for you. Right. But I still give a little bit of tough love there where I go, this is just, we've had this conversation for 20, like, you
It's
guys.
time. Yeah. Well, and also you're setting yourself up to be that person that's not going to take it from people because like you said, if you just keep
Boundaries.
letting it go, they're draining your energy, they're draining their own energy, and it's
Waste of time. It's a waste of time.
yeah, it's a waste of time. Yeah. And then another topic that I love that you talk about is self-sabotage, like how we get into this self-sabotage and like what do you think is at the root of self-sabotage and like why do we do this to ourselves when things just start to get good?
I think, well, sometimes it's fear of success, fear of failure. Okay, so those are usually on the side of self sabotage. Perfectionism. Um, I can't really do it yet. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. Now that's a delay. It's been 3 years. Your project's not out. Okay, so procrastination involving perfectionism or other things, and then also, fear of success or fear of failure. But what's really behind a lot of that is the very famous psychological tenet that every psychologist knows, which is we repeat patterns familiar to us, even though they're unhealthy. Okay. So that is why, like, why the hell would some little girl witness her mother getting beaten by a man and then go be with a wife beater?
Right.
Why would
That's a
anyone
great
do
example.
it? Okay. If you see, they've showed this before, abused baby. being handed over to the police, right? Because the mother is like horribly abusive. They're taking the child away. The baby is screaming for the abusive mother
Yeah.
because it's familiar and it's all they
All
know.
it knows.
It's all they know. So we repeat those patterns. So did you grow up with a dad that was a total abandonment, jerk, whatever, and now you're attracting that in life? Guess what? That's why. It's the story in your head from your experience. It doesn't mean it's healthy. It's just familiar. We all have to catch it. Usually anything going wrong in our life that can go back to some parental garbage or something like that, or something an ex-boyfriend said that, really was rude, whatever it is. Um, it's all kind of explainable. They usually are a pattern. And again, and I've been in this too. I had a pattern because I had a dad who was an alcoholic, and his thing, it was kind of a bummer, and well, it's good in a way. He was a really fun alcoholic, and he was kind of functional. So he kind of got away with murder because everyone wanted to hang out with him, and he was funny and he was upbeat and he wasn't mean and didn't beat anyone, or but in a way he still kind of got away with being like a total loser, drop, deadbeat dad because of it. And anyway, my mother, back in that day, it was like the women didn't work really, they were going to stay home with the kids when they get married. And my dad was from a very wealthy family, and he had a lot of money. He made a lot of money on himself, lost all of our money in the stock market, total drunk. And I remember, and then my mother had to go pick up the ball on that one and support her two children right through college and everything else. And back then, in grade school, I declared it. I go, that's it. Can't trust men. See, you meet someone, the picture looks good, and then guess what? You're shafted at the last moment. And now you're stuck in the.
Wow.
What do you think I attracted after that?
That's a bad life sentence.
What do you think I attract? I attracted men that kept proving that point to me.
Right. See, I told you. Yeah.
Until I recognized that, like, because what actually it was my cousin who pointed out to me. She goes, you know what? I don't know anybody else that deals with all of the stuff with these guys. I've never seen. None of my friends have had these issues. Oh, I guess it's me. It's the attraction. It's what I'm expecting out there. It's that, and I had to do a little seance with myself and kind of undeclare that and to take a new picture. And then I started to attract reliable, available, steady, stable people.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I really did the work, because I'm like, why does this keep? Now you see why it keep happening. It's just one dumb statement and an experience from my childhood that made me just go, ah, see, I'm not going to get chumped like my mom did. Not going to take me for a fool. Right, exactly.
So, okay, let me ask you. So you mentioned law of attraction, and then you said you did a little seance, a little thing with yourself. So I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of people are curious because I know, I
sure.
mean, all of us are stuck in some different pattern that we want to get out of. So can you just
Yep.
unpack that a little bit?
Sure. So, I mean, I guess the way to look at it is you could just go through each area of your life, like health, career, love, family, friends, whatever. And you go through each one, you go, what do I like? What do I don't like? But also, is what I don't like something that keeps happening? And if that's it, like, do you always get fired from your job? Do you always have a shitty boss? Do you always run into the psycho girlfriend? Like these kind of things when you're like, oh, just my luck, I'll probably run. Well, those are the moments when you have to go, hold on a minute. There's a pattern there. There's a theme. What is that theme related to? And Brandon is the perfect example in my book of that theme. And I'll say the story really quickly because I know we're coming up on time here. Brandon's in his 40s. Past couple of decades, he's been a contractor, works on a project for 2 weeks, works on, right, okay. He had a manager that he kept working with on all these projects. Every project, something would go wrong. It wasn't Brandon's fault. He would get blamed, and then he would get chastised by the boss, bullied, in front of everyone, like, yeah, didn't even do it. And this kept happening, and he never spoke up. Very, 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 like, just took it. And we talked about it. I said, it's funny, Brandon, this doesn't happen to anyone else I know. I've not, this is one, where did you in your life have issues with people in a position of authority, or where were you always wrong? Where were you always wrong? It was so and this is why this is a great example. This is something so seemingly innocuous that fucked his career for 20 years until he figured it out. What it was is Brandon grew up in a middle upper class home. No one was beaten, no one was molested, no one was abused. Okay, everyone had food. Everyone, lovely. But dad could be a little bit of a hothead sometimes. So like, the hammer would go missing, and he'd be like, "Brandon, I know you took the hammer. Where the hell is it?" Da, 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 da. And Brandon would be like, "I don't know where the hammer is. I didn't take your hammer." His dad would be like, "Ah," and then his dad would find the hammer and never apologize.
Never say anything, like
And
just
stuff like that would happen. And I go, "Oh, here we are, Brandon.
yeah.
Now that's now great household, great grown up, no one need for nothing. She wasn't he wasn't frightened of his father. It was just like these little dumb moments. He wasn't
Message.
afraid of getting beaten in those moments. And it seems dumb and small. And look at what it did to his career. So he constantly is attracting situations. So first it was realizing you don't have to be freaking wrong, number one.
Right.
And then the next part of it was what are you going to do? Because this is going to happen until you speak up. And that's the truth. These things will keep happening to you until you nip them in the bud. In fact, once you do, and once you speak up, guaranteed you're going to get a tester. Universe is going to be like, did you really learn it? Did you really learn it?
Think you
So
got that? Yeah.
so Brandon, so we had to get him ready because we knew it was going to happen another time. We knew he was going to be on set, he was going to get blamed. So we said, okay, what's your strategy? Like, he came up with something to the effect of when he was going to get yelled at and blamed in front of everyone, instead of taking it, he was going to say, hey, you're not going to speak to me in that tone ever again. And if you speak to me in that tone one more time, I'm walking off the set.
Wow.
Now, yes, Brandon was shaking inside. Yes, it was nerve wracking. But he knew, and we knew, that this was the only way out.
Yeah.
And what happened was exactly what I thought would happen. Most people who are bully people like that, who barrel over people, when you call them on it, especially in front of other people, oof, they retreat. They are so shocked that they're called on it. Now they're embarrassed. Now you just bullied the bully back. They
Yeah.
are like, oh, and he apologized, never did it again. But the best part of the story is that Brandon then started attracted new work people, new managers for new projects. So he didn't have to work with that guy anymore. Wonderful. Okay. But also, every other project he worked on from there, people would write him afterwards and go, that was the smoothest project we've ever had. We love you. This was great. And I wish I could bottle Brandon's confidence when he first spoke up. I'm so proud of himself. And here's why. Because primally, that's what you're freaking thinking. So you're being inauthentic and a liar to yourself and a people pleaser when you are not standing up for yourself and declaring boundaries like that. I wouldn't let anyone talk to me that way. Likely they wouldn't, because I don't put off that vibration. That's the other thing. Bullies and people who have very dominant personalities, if you are lacking in serious confidence and self-esteem, it's like a CKD missile. They will find you.
So
They will
true.
find you.
I
You
keep
better be
attracting
you
the
better
same
be
thing.
prepared. You better
Yeah.
be prepared. So I rarely get bullied. I rarely get patronized. No one really screws with me because that's just not the vibe I walk into the room with. That
I know.
was the vibe Brandon was walking into every day, just like, oh my God, I hope doesn't something go. Well, guess what? That's it's an expectation really through vibration and of course his past story. He never has any issues anymore. He did get a tester. He got a tester where he had a new manager and someone made a snide, snippy remark and he cut it off immediately. He said, nope, we're not doing that. Not, nope.
Going there. Wow.
Not doing
That's
it.
amazing. And I feel like, I mean,
But it's so
all these,
exemplary. This is why people need to, the reason that example is so juicy, because it's such a dumb thing that happened in childhood probably 5, 6 times. Wasn't even
right?
something
Didn't
seemingly
even
horribly
register.
traumatic.
Yeah.
It ruined his career for like, it was just like, oh my God, now he's so happy and he's working with all these wonderful people that appreciate and love him and nothing goes freaking wrong.
Yep. So the recap, it's just about start by asking yourself the question, why am I attracting this? And what maybe in my past life has was happening to make me keep attracting this thing, like the abusive maid or the whatever the situation where you always feel like you're
The teacher that told you you're dumb and you were never going to be anything, whatever it is, it can be drawn back to something like that. And it also could be just being drawn to childhood or something that happened last week,
yeah.
I mean, that tripped you up. But at the end of the day, people everywhere, including family members, are going to project a lack of confidence onto you about almost everything you do. And what are you going to do about it? If you're going to let their opinion of you affect your opinion of you, then you're crazy. And that I don't want that. That's why I'm out there writing this book, to get you to do the work that you need to do so that you can become authentic. And so that you are moving around this world. Like, honestly, I don't have issues with drawing boundaries. Like, I feel so happy. I don't have any yucky weirdness stuff with my friends or family. We don't have like, there's no hidden underlying passive aggressive stuff because we all say what we think. And this is one of the things I love about Mark Sisson, who published my first book and wrote the foreword to the second, and the author of the Primal Blueprint. We have that same exact personality. It's very much like, no bullshit, let's get to it. Now, I know my personality is not for everybody, but what people do appreciate is they know I'm going to tell them the truth. Okay, they know that. Now, I'm going to edit myself though, because I believe in white lies. I'm not going to tell your grandma at Thanksgiving dinner when she says, "Do you like my sweater?" I'm going to tell her it's wonderful, even though I think it's ugly. But if
Right.
you're my friend and you come to me, I'm going to go, "That's an ugly ass sweater. Girl, never wear it."
Don't
Because
wear that. Yeah.
because you already know me and you know you're coming to me because you know. So yes, you don't always speak up in the face of danger. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe you don't speak up when your face is about to get punched and you let that one go. But so it's not, you got to choose your battles wisely. That's another tenet of being confident. So
Yeah, I love that. This book's just, it's like a book for anybody that just wants to get through life and figure out, because we've all had those moments where we're just trying to figure out, like, how do I stop this thing from happening? And the whole confidence piece, I just love. I
yeah,
think everybody needs to read this. And I think it's funny because it also ties in with the whole thing, starting out talking about diet and talking about cleaning up your diet, and like everything's so tied together. I mean, if you find your confidence through speaking up for yourself, you're going to want to treat yourself better. You're not going to want to go home and stuff cake in your mouth because you stood up for yourself. So you're going to want to celebrate yourself. So there's
exactly.
just, everything leads to everything. I think it's all so intertwined.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so for people that I know we're wrapping up here and I have a call in a couple minutes, but if you have a thyroid issue, I have a free thyroid guide on my website, elleruss.com, top right corner, free thyroid guide. What test you need to get, how do you find the right doctor, a bunch of stuff. You can find both of my books on Amazon, kind of anywhere. And then also, of course, you can hear me every Monday on the Primal Blueprint podcast and every Wednesday on Kick Ass Life podcast. But I made that free thyroid guide to get usage. You don't have to spend all the money I had to spend not finding out anything. You know what I mean? I really want to offer a lot of that for free. Plus, on my website, you can go to media and you can watch some really selected, very in-depth thyroid interviews and other things to kind of start to get to know it without even, buying my book. So,
Yeah, just start somewhere. So I'll
yeah,
put all those links in, all the book links, everything in. So if anybody's looking either on YouTube or on the podcast, you can find the links below. And I
awesome.
just want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'm just so excited about everything you're doing. And I just want to thank you for this gift you're giving to people of helping them find the thing that they need to heal and like live the life they want to live.
Thank you so much. And everybody, don't give up. Don't give up.
Yay! All right. Well, have a great one. And thanks for joining.